You can see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we will continue this chapter after this, but today we will do that one only, right? Which we were doing, na? That we will do. Okay, so let's just start. Okay, so first of all, introduction. So first of all, introduction, this chapter is all about cell. So we will be doing the introduction of cell itself, right? So what is a
Yeah.
cell, ma'am? A cell is the structural and functional unit of life. It is the basic unit of life, right? Now the thing is, who
Yes.
discovered the cell? So it discovered by the Robert Hooke. Very, very important for the one marker. This also, like, what is the basic unit of cell? Basic unit of life. Exam name will be cell. Who discovered cell? This. Where basically this was a tree, right? So over here, a cork, a slice of cork, right? With the help of microscope, primitive microscope, they basically discovered the cell, right? There was one more person, which is Lewin van Hooke, discovered the free living cells in the pond of water with the improved microscope. So it was primitive, it was improved. They discovered basically the free living cell. This only discovered the cell, right? But they free living cell. Now, Robert Brown, they discovered the nucleus in the cell, right? First cell was discovered, right? Free living cells. Then he discovered, Robert Hooke discovered the cells. Lewin Hooke discovered free living, and Robert Brown, they discovered the nucleus in the cell. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, there is a word called protoplasm. So, Purkinje coined the term protoplasm for the fluid substance of the cell. So, in a cell, there was a fluid substance. So, of course, you have to name that. So, he named that this is a protoplasm. Clear? I think all the one markers are going to be covered here. So, this. Now, coming to cell theory. So, ma'am, what is the cell theory? The theory that all the plants and animals are composed of cell and the cell is the basic unit of life was presented by two biologists, which is Kendallin and Scavan, right? The cell theory was further expanded by Vikrohow by suggesting that the cell arises from the pre-existing cell, right? So earlier there was like that all the plants and animals, what they are having the cell, right? And it is the basic unit of life. But later on, there was one person, Virchow, he suggested that, like, for example, this is a cell. This will further divide and they will form more cell. They will further divide, they will form more cell. They will further divide. So what is happening? Cell arises from the pre-existing cell itself, right? Clear? Till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, types of organism. Ma'am, on the basis of number of cells, organism are of two types, right? One is unicellular, right? One is multicellular. So, unicellular are single cell which perform all the functions like amoeba, paramecium, bacteria. Now, multicellular, they have many grouped cells together. They perform different functions in the body and also form various body parts. Example, fungi, plants, animals. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, the shape and the size of cell are different according to the kind of function they perform. This is called division of labor cells. So not every cell will be same, right? They are different in size and shape. How? Like it depends on what they do. What is their function? Each cell has certain kind of cell organelles to perform different type of functions. So cell itself is not going to perform the functions. Na? Cell has cell organelles. This cell organelles basically helps in performing the functions. Clear? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Now there are two types of cell, prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Very, very important difference. Okay. Prokaryotes, cell of organism lack nuclear membrane. They don't have, for example, this is nuclear. They don't have the membrane in it, right? And cell of organism have nuclear membrane. Nucleus is absent. Nucleus is present. Single chromosome, single or multi-chromosome. Reproduction is always asexual. Reproduction is both sexual and asexual. Always unicellular, always multicellular. Membrane bond cell organelles are absent. Membrane bond organelles are present like mitochondria. Centriole is absent. All these terms we will discuss, don't worry. Centriole is present only in the animal cell. Cell division is a binary fission. Cell division is mitosis or meiosis. Example, bacteria, blue green algae, they are basically the example of prokaryotes. And fungi, plants, and animal cells, they are the example of eukaryotes, right? From here,
Yes,
of course,
ma'am.
you have to learn the difference. Learn 5 points by heart. Okay, there are a lot of points.
Okay.
And learn 5 points by heart. But for 1 marker, what you have to do, you have to remember this. Like, for example, give one example of prokaryote. So you should know the examples. Give one example of eukaryote, right? Sometimes for the example, they'll give bacteria is a prokaryote or eukaryote. So example you have to remember. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Now another difference is plant cell and animal cell. Very, very important. Over here, cell is absent, cell is present. Plastids are absent, plastids are present. Centrioles are present, centrioles are absent. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now coming to the next one, diffusion. Very, very important. So now what is diffusion? The spontaneous movement of a substance from a region of high concentration to the region of low concentration. Right? So,
Yeah.
the very, very important 1 marker and the definition, high concentration to low
Like
concentration.
concentration.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is called diffusion. Some substance like carbon dioxide or oxygen can move across the cell membrane by the process called diffusion, right? And cell also obtain nutrients from the environment, right? So this is basically, remember, high to low. Okay. Now osmosis, again a process. The movement of matter molecule through selectively permeable membrane along the concentrated gradient is called osmosis. So over here, of course, if the water is coming inside the cell, of course, there is a layer. This is basically the osmosis. If I'm sweating, of course, my water is coming from my body through my skin. So that is called osmosis. So movement of water molecule through permeable membrane along the concentrated gradient is called osmosis. Clear? Plant cells
Yes, ma'am.
tend to obtain their water through osmosis only. Okay.
Okay.
Now, hypotonic and hypertonic or isotonic solution. Very, very important. So, this is basically the solution, right? So,
Yeah.
hypotonic is basically medium surrounding cells has higher water concentration than the cell. Okay. So, this is cell. Over here, the water concentration is higher. Okay. Like in cell, the water is less, but surrounding it is high. So it is hypotonic solution, right? So what will happen basically cell. So for example, this is you, right? If you will be in the water itself, right? So what you will do, automatically water will come inside your body and your body will swell up, right?
Ma'am, I don't understand. Swell up meaning?
Okay. For example, this is a sponge. You know the sponge?
Yeah, sponge, yeah.
Right. If you will keep it in the water, what will happen?
The sponge will soak up the water.
Yes. And it will swell, right?
Yeah.
If the shape
Okay.
is like,
Yeah.
it will swell to this, right? So
Yeah.
when it happens that outer is higher and inner is less concentration of water, right? From higher to less, it will come. You know that we have already discussed the diffusion, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when surrounding has higher water composition as
Here
compared to the
comes
cell,
this.
it is known as hypotonic. Clear?
Okay.
So what will happen?
Yeah.
Cell will gain water by osmosis and likely to swell up. Okay.
Okay.
Now isotonic, over here what happens? Medium have exactly same water. So if the cell has this water, outside also this level, same level of water.
Then
So,
it's wrong.
over here cell will remain
The
of the
same
same
size.
size. Now
Okay.
hypertonic, medium has lower concentration, cell has more and the surrounding has lower. So at that time what will happen? Dry up. Yes or no? You will dry up now because you don't have water. So you will dry up one day, right? For
Oh,
example,
so the water is less as well as the water inside you is less.
yes. So water, see, medium has lower concentration of water than cell. So water crosses the cell in both directions, but water leaves the cell that enters it. Clear? So automatically,
Yeah.
whatever water is there in the cell, it will go outside.
Okay. Okay.
Because you know
Yeah.
the transpiration and all that, right?
Yeah.
So when waters enter inside the cell, that is hypotonic solution. When there is neutral thing, it is isotonic. When water goes out of the cell, it is hypertonic solution. Clear?
So, ma'am, for hypertonic, does the water also come out as well?
Yes, water come out from the cell. You see, water crosses the cell in both direction, but
Not
more water.
hyper, ma'am. Not hypo
Okay,
as well.
hypo. So in hypo, basically, for example, this is a surrounding. It has less concentration, so it will gain water, na? And automatically it will swell.
So
Clear?
in hypertonic, if the medium has less water, so it will come out.
Yes. So see, the only thing you have to remember, if you are, let's just take your example. Okay, this is a human being. If this girl has more water, what they will do? They will spill.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
If it has
okay.
less water, it will take.
Yeah. Okay. Understood,
Yes.
ma'am.
If it has
Okay.
medium
Yeah.
water, then it will be neutral. Clear?
Yeah. Understood,
Or
ma'am.
spell it less, take it and swell, and this will be neutral. Clear?
Yeah. Understood, ma'am.
So this is what you have to remember. Okay. Now coming to the next one, it is basically plasma membrane or cell membrane. Okay. So plasma membrane, this is the outermost covering of cell that separates the content of the cell from its external environment. For example, this is a cell. Of course, it will have a layer, right? For example, this is your body. Of course, your body, this is your hand. There is a skin layer, right? Whatever
Yeah.
happens to your hand, automatically that will be affecting your skin, not directly the hand, right? So this plasma membrane or cell membrane is basically a layer. So it is the outermost covering of the cell that separates the content of the cell from its external environment. The plasma membrane allows or permits the entry and exit of some material in or out of the cell, right? Because they are the layer. If something is coming, they have to take the permission of plasma membrane. If something has to go out, they have to take the permission of plasma membrane, right?
Yeah.
And it also prevents movement of some other material. The cell membrane is called selectively permeable member. Why selectively? Because they don't allow everything. They select it and then they allow, right? And this plasma membrane is made up of lipid and protein. Clear?
Okay. Yeah.
Now, properties of plasma membrane, it is flexible. Made up of organic molecules like lipid and this, so it is flexible. You know, our skin is also flexible, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, plasma membrane is also flexible. Okay. Now, next is properties of plasma membrane. It is flexible. Its flexibility enables cells to engulf in food and other form the external environment. This process is called endocytosis. Amoeba acquire food through this process. Very, very important. Amoeba is this, right? What they will do basically, what they do, for example, this is a food particle. They will slowly go there and accordingly they will grab it and one time will come where they will eat it, right? So what they are doing, they are basically, because of this flexibility, they are engulfing, they are taking their food, right?
Yeah.
So that's why this is known as endocytosis, right?
Okay.
And that's why this one marker also it makes, right?
Yeah.
Now, functions of plasma membrane. It permits the entry and exit of some material in and out of the cell. It prevents movement of some or other material not required for the cell as it acts like selectively permeable membrane, right?
Yeah.
Now, coming to cell wall. Okay, for example, this is a cell wall like this. So, cell wall is another rigid. This is not flexible. This is rigid. Rigid outer covering in addition to the plasma membrane found in plant cell. The cell wall lies outside the plasma membrane. The plant cell wall is mainly composed of cellulose. Cellulose is a complex substance which provides structural strength to plants. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, functions of cell wall. So, cell wall permits the cell of plants, fungi, and bacteria to withstand very dilute, like hypotonic external medium without bursting. Clear? So, it's basically, for example, the balloon. Why the balloon get burst up? Because the layer is very thin. right? But similarly, if you have a very hard bottle, of course, it will not burst up now if you will fill water, right? Because they have the rigid boundary. So similarly, sometimes when we intake it, hypotonic, so at that time cells don't burst up, right? Why? Because we have the strong cell wall, right? And then in such medium, the cell tends to take up water by osmosis. The cell sense well building up the pressure against the cell wall. The wall exerts an equal pressure against the swollen wall, right? So they exert the pressure on it, but they don't burst up. So cell wall basically prevents the cell from bursting up. Now, because of cell wall, cell can withstand with greater changes in the surrounding medium than animal cell, right? So in plant cell, basically they sustain. Why? Because they have stronger cell wall. They don't have cell wall, but they have. Okay. Now, plasmolysis. Plasmolysis is basically when a living plant cell loses water through osmosis. There is a shrinkage or concentration of content of the cell wall away from cell wall. This phenomena is called plasmolysis. Clear? Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So when your living plant will lose cell, it is known as plasmolysis. Okay.
Okay.
Now nucleus, you know, this is a cell, this is a nucleus. See, now you have different terms. Nucleus, inside the nucleus, nucleoplasm, this one, right? Chromosome, you can see this, and nuclear pores, these are the holes, you can see, right? So they are basically the part of it. Okay. So now one by one we will understand. It is called the brain of cell as it contains all the active of cells. So sometimes for run marker they can make it, who is known as a brain of cell, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, just a minute. Okay. Now composition of nucleus. The nucleus has a double layered covering. Okay. So what you have to remember now, composition most of the time they ask.
What
Composition. Yeah, you can hear me now?
Yeah, ma'am. Sorry, it was lagging for a second.
Okay. No problem. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, ma'am, it's clear now.
Okay. Now composition of nucleus. So the nucleus has a double layered covering called nuclear membrane. This is nucleus, right? Plasma membrane, I hope you remember it for the entire cell. In a cell, you have nucleus. Nucleus has a covering, that is nuclear membrane. Okay. The nuclear membrane has pores which allow the transfer of material from inside the nucleus to the cytoplasm. The nucleus contains chromosomes which are visible as rod-shaped structure only when the cell is about to divide. Clear? So nucleus, inside nucleus, they have chromosome and they look like rod shape, right? And only when the cell is about to divide. So when they look like rod shape, when the cell is about to divide, only then. Okay. Now function of chromosome. So chromosome contain information for inheritance of features from parent to the next generation in the form of DNA, right? DNA molecules. Chromosomes are composed of DNA and protein. DNA molecules contain the informative necessary for constructing and organizing cells. Functional segment of DNA are called genes, right? And in non-dividing cells, this DNA is present as part of chromatin material. Now, chromatin material is visible as entangled mass of thread-like structure. Whenever the cell is about to divide, the chromatin material gets organized into chromosome and performs cell division. Clear?
Yeah.
Now, what are the functions of nucleus? The nucleus plays a central role in cell reproduction. It is a process by which a single cell divides and forms two new cells. It also plays a crucial part along with the environment in determining the way the cell will develop and what form it will exhibit at maturity by directing the chemical activities of the cell. Clear?
Ma'am, I don't understand the second point.
Okay. See, nucleus is basically a crucial part along with the environment in determining the way the cell will develop. How the cell will develop, that is very important, and what form it will exhibit at maturity by directing the chemical activities of the cell, right? So basically, everything a nucleus decides, right? When it will be when it will get in maturity, like the chemical activities, all that, it will be decided by the nucleus. Okay.
Yes.
Now, nucleoid. In some organisms like bacteria, the nuclear region of the cell may be poorly defined due to absence of nuclear membrane, such as undefined nuclear region containing one nucleic acid is called nuclear. Clear?
So without the nuclear membrane, it's called a nucleoid?
No. Over here, such as undefined nuclear region, it has one nucleic acid, that is nucleoid. Right? You don't have any part. For example, this is the region in nucleus, right? And it is undefined, but it has a nucleic acid here. So you will say this area is nucleoid. Clear?
Oh, okay, yeah, understood.
Now coming to cytoplasm. What are cytoplasm? Basically, the cytoplasm is the fluid content inside the plasma membrane. So, plasma membrane, you know, the layer, right? It has a fluid that is called cytoplasm. It also contains many specialized cell organelles. Each of these organelles perform a specific function. So what are this? It helps in exchange of material between cell organelles. It acts as a store of vital chemicals such as amino acid, glucose, vitamin, iron. It is the site of certain metabolic pathway such as glycolysis. Okay.
Okay.
Now coming to next one. Okay. Wait a minute. Okay, you can see this. I think there's basically, when I was noting it down, I captured it. Okay.
Okay.
So ER is basically the larger network of membrane. So when you get a lot of membrane, that forms ER. It looks like long tubular or round or oblong bags, right? ER is basically similar to plasma membrane. It is also made up of lipid and protein. Very, very important parts comes from here. It is of two types. One is rough, one is smooth, right? So rough one looks rough under the microscopic because it has particles called ribosomes attached to its surface. The ribosomes, which are present in all active cells, are the sites of protein manufacture. The manufactured protein are then sent to various places in the cell depending on need using the ER. Okay. The smooth one helps in manufacturing of fat molecules or lipid important for cell function. Clear?
Yeah.
Some of these protein and lipid help in building the cell membrane. This process is known as membrane biogenesis. Okay.
Okay.
Now coming to some other protein and lipids functions as enzymes and hormones. Although ER varies greatly in appearance in different cells, it always form a network system. Now, one important function of ER is that it serves as a channel for transport of material, especially protein, between various regions of cytoplasm or between cytoplasm and nucleus. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
And ER also functions as cytoplasmic framework, providing a surface for some of the biochemical activities of the cell. So whatever biochemical activities the cell is performing, who is responsible for that? ER. Okay?
Okay.
And in the liver cell of a group of animal called vertebrates, SER, smooth one, plays a crucial role in detoxifying many poisonous rays. Very important. Like sometimes what happens in liver cell for group of animal called vertebrates, they basically eat anything, right? So this SER basically plays a crucial role in detoxifying many poisonous gases or drugs. Clear? Poisonous substance and drugs. Okay. So SER or rough one, smooth one. Okay. Now Golgi apparatus. So it basically consists of a system of membrane-bound vesicles arranged approximately parallel to each other in stack called cisterns. These membranes often have connection with a membrane of ER and therefore constitute another portion of a complex cellular membrane system. Now, function of Golgi body. The material synthesis near the ER is patched and dispatched to various targets inside and outside the cell through Golgi apparatus. Its function include the storage, modification, and packaging of product in vesicles. In some cases, complex sugar may be made from the simple sugar of Golgi apparatus. The Golgi apparatus is also involved in the formation of lysosome. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So now coming to lysosome. Lysosomes are basically the waste disposal cell, right? So it helps to keep the cell clean by digesting any foreign material like that you will eat. So whatever waste products are being differentiated, that basically is because of lysosome. They have the membrane bonded structure whose sacs are filled with digestive enzymes. Okay. Now what
Okay,
they
ma'am.
do basically, they break the foreign material entering the cell, such as bacteria or the food, as well as the old organelles into small pieces. They contain powerful digestive enzymes, which are made up of RER, which is capable of breaking down all organic material made in RER. Then during the disturbance in cellular metabolism, such as when the cell get damaged, lysosomes may burst and enzyme digest their own cell. Therefore, lysosome is known as suicide bag. Very, very important. Right? So sometimes what they do, they eat their self itself. So that's why they are known as suicide bags. Right?
Yeah.
Very, very important part comes here is mitochondria. So mitochondria is known as the one marker powerhouse of the cell. So it has two membrane covering. The outer membrane is very porous while the inner membrane is deeply folded. Inner membranes look like this. Outer membrane has a porous one. Okay.
Okay.
Now structure, two membrane this way done. These folds create larger space where ATP generation is done. Now, the energy required for various cell activities needed for life is released by mitochondria in the form of ATP molecules. Right? What is ATP? ATP is also known as energy currency of the cell. Right? So the body uses energy stored in ATP for making new chemical compounds or for mechanical work. Mitochondria have their own DNA, very, very important. Mitochondria, they have own DNA and ribosome. Therefore, mitochondria are able to make some of their own proteins. Now, plastids. Plastids are present only in the plant cell. There are three types of plastids: chromoplast, leucoplast, and chloroplast. So, chromoplast itself say they are colored. Leucoplast, they are white or colorless. Chromoplast, they are green pigmented. Basically, chlorophyll they have. Right?
Yeah.
And structure. The internal organism of the plastids contain numerous membrane layer embedded in the material called stroma. Plastids also have their own DNA and ribosome like mitochondria and similar structure like it. Function: chloroplasts are important for photosynthesis in the plant. Right?
Okay.
And chloroplasts, they contain various yellow and orange pigmentation in addition to chlorophyll. And
Okay.
leucoplasts are primary organelles in which materials such as starch, oil, and protein granules are stored. Clear?
Yes.
Now coming to vacuoles, they basically the storage sex of solid and liquid content. So they store basically solid as well as liquid. They are
Okay.
small sized in animal cell, while plant cell are very large, have very large vacuoles. So animal cell they are small, and in plant cell they are very large. So functions basically, the central vacuoles of some plants may occupy 50 to 90% of the cell volume. When plant cell vacuoles are full of cell sap and provide turgidity and rigidity to the cell, many important substances in the life of the plant cell are stored in vacuoles, which includes amino acids, sugar, various organic acids, and some protein. In single-celled organisms like amoeba, the food vacuoles contain the food items that the amoeba has consumed. In some unicellular organisms, specialized vacuoles also play important roles in expelling excess water and some waste from the cell. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that's it for this chapter. Now I will share, wait a minute, I'll just share a few notes with you, which are basically the handwritten one, and we will just give it a coverage. Let me check if I have. I am not sure whether I have. Yeah, I have fundamental. These are basically my handwritten note, which I personally, I think you can see it a little bit.
Yeah, I can see,
So
ma'am.
they are written with pencil. So let's just quickly recap them. Okay. For this first one, Robert Hooke gave the cell term, right? These are basically the example of unicellular, and these are example of multicellular: fungi, plant, animal, amoeba, plasmodium, paracam. They are basically example of unicellular cell. They are example of multicellular. These are basically for the one marker. Okay.
Okay.
Now, this is inside cell, you have cell organelles. They perform the different functions. I told you that cell don't perform the function. Inside the cell, they have cell organelles. right? The organs they have, they perform the different
Yeah.
functions. All cells are found to have some organelles, no matter what their function is or what organism they are found, right? So all the cells, they
Yeah.
have the organelles, no matter what function they perform, every cell. Now cell, it is basically, they have this plasma membrane, nucleus and cytoplasm. Clear?
Yes,
Coming to
ma'am.
plasma membrane, which is also known as cell membrane. This is the outermost covering, allow and permits entry and exit. SPM, selectively permeable membrane, right? Now,
Yeah,
we
ma'am.
also did one term which is called diffusion. It is basically from higher concentration to the lower concentration, right? And remember one thing, it's a gaseous exchange between the cell and environment. Okay.
Okay,
So
ma'am.
diffusion is basically for the gases. Okay. But when you will transfer liquid now, that will be known as osmosis. Very, very minor difference. Okay. So osmosis will be from similarly higher concentration to lower concentration, but it will be for the liquid. Clear? Now, there are three types of solution. Hypertonic, from higher to lower, right? And isotonic, both are same. And hypertonic, higher is inside, lower is outside. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? And one word which is called endocytosis. This is basically the plasma membrane is flexible. We did for amoeba, right? You remember endocytosis, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So amoeba engulf food from environment. So plasma membrane, this is basically a type of plasma membrane itself, but it is flexible and it basically helps the organism to engulf their food. And this is the example. That's why it is not known as plasma membrane. It is known as endocytosis, right? Endocytosis.
Yeah.
Now coming to second one, which is cell wall, right? So cell wall is basically plant have cell wall made up of cellulose and orchitin. Plant bacteria, fungi, they have. Cell walls permits the cell to plant from bursting. We already discussed this. Also, it helps the cell to withstand greater changes in the surrounding and they provide rigidity. Now, one very important term here is plasmolysis. So when living plant cell loses water through osmosis, it leads to shrinkage of cell. That is known as plasmolysis. We discussed that as well, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now to coming to nucleus, it has double membrane called nuclear membrane. Has pores, transfer inside material to the cytoplasm, right? Nucleus contains chromosome. If it is rod shape, they also contain DNA and protein, right? And nucleus has nucleoplasm, is basically fluid in nature, chromatin and nucleus. Chromosome is basically DNA and protein. Nucleoplasm is basically chromatin and nuclear. If cell divides, see, if the cell is dividing, it has DNA. If it is not dividing, then it contains chromatin and chromatin material. Clear?
Okay. Okay, ma'am.
Then, nucleus plays important role in cellular reproduction, determining the way cell is devolved. So basically, because of nucleus only, it helps in cellular reproduction. Plus, it determines how the cell will evolve. And bacteria, they don't have nuclear membrane. Bacteria is also an organism, no? Right? But still, they don't have nuclear membrane. In that place, they have nucleoid. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
The area where you cannot define it, but still it has nucleic acid. So that is known as nucleoid. You were confused at that time, right?
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah.
So bacteria, they don't have nuclear membrane in place of that, but they have nucleic acid. So that's why they have nucleoid. Clear?
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Now, prokaryotic, eukaryotic lack nuclear membrane, small size, nucleus is absent, cell division occurs by fission and bud. Eukaryotes have nuclear membrane, large in size, nucleus is present, cell division occurs by mitosis and meiosis. Now stain the cell. So if you will stain the cell, basically iodine solution plus safronic solution and methylene is needed to stain a cell. Clear? To make the cell stain.
Okay.
Now, other part was cytoplasm. So fluid inside plasma membrane is known as cytoplasm. We already discussed this, right? Basically, protoplasm has two, cytoplasm and nucleoplasm. But in your 9th class, we have only discussed about this cytoplasm. It contains cell organelles. So inside that also they have inside cell. See, plasma membrane has cell organelles. Inside cell organ, they have cell organelles. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Plasma membrane has cytoplasm. Cytoplasm has cell organelles. Virus lack membrane, hence does not show characteristics of life. Very, very important. Viruses are basically, if they will not enter in a body, they will die. Why? Because they don't have membrane. That's why it does not show characteristics of life. They need a human body so that they can evolve. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Over here, I gave you one more term, which is cell organelles. So cell organelles is basically every cell has a membrane around it to keep its own
Okay.
contents separate from the external environment. So in a cell organelles, basically these are the cell organelles: endoplasmic reticulum, which we discussed, Golgi apparatus, lysosomes, mitochondria, plastids. So what are they? They are basically the cell organ. Endoplasmic reticulum, they will have different functions. Golgi apparatus, it will have different functions. Lysosome, like basically cell organelles, it has basically these 6, right? So for example, this is a human being. We have hands. Hands have different functions. We have legs. Legs has different functions. We have hairs. Hairs have different functions. We have eyes. Eyes have different functions. So similarly, cell organelles basically have 6, right? Endocrine,
Yeah.
Golgi apparatus, lysosomes, and all that. So they have different functions. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Perform important functions. So coming to first, endoplasmic reticulum, network of tubules, membrane-bound tubules or sheath. So it is basically a network of tubules. ER is similar in structure to plasma membrane. Look like long tubules or oblong bar, right? ER, I told you, smooth and rough, right? So helps in manufacture of fat molecules plus lipid. Rough one has ribosomes. Ribosomes are basically free in state, active cells. It have protein manufacture it do and made up of RNA plus protein. Clear? So one marker comes from here is in which endoplasmic reticulum ribosomes are attached. So for the rough one, they are attached. R for rough and R for ribosomes. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now coming to one more term, which is biogenesis. So when this SER manufacture fat molecules plus lipid, and some of these proteins and lipid help in building cell membrane, this process is called biogenesis, right? So when SER, smooth one is manufacturing this lipid and this fat molecules, and some of them will be helping in the cell membrane, building of cell membrane, that is known as biogenesis process. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Now, ER serves as the channel for the transport of material, especially protein, between various regions of cytoplasm, between cytoplasm to nucleus. They provide cytoplasmic framework for biochemical activities. ER also found in living liver cells of group of animal called vertebrates and plays important role in destroying many poisons and drugs already discussed, right? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now coming to Golgi apparatus. So Chemino Golgi was the one who first described that. They consist of membrane-bound vessels arranged parallel to each other, called as clusters. Helps in processing and packaging.
Yeah.
Helps in processing and packaging of storing modifications of products called vesicles. Complex sugar to simple sugar, they convert. Very, very important functions. And also helps in formation of lysosomes. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now coming to lysosomes, right? Lysosomes are a kind of waste disposal system of cell. They keep the cell clean by digesting other material like the waste material and all that. They keep it clean. Lysosomes contain powerful digestive enzyme capable of breaking down all organic material. They are also known as suicide bag, right?
Yeah.
And structural membrane bond sac filled with the diagrammatic digestive enzyme helps in intercellular digestion, not found in RBC of mammals. Clear? Very, very important. Lysosomes are not present in red blood cell of mammals. Okay.
Okay.
Now coming to mitochondria, powerhouse of cells, release energy in the form of ATP, which is known as ATP full form, very, very important. Adenylated triphosphate. Mitochondria has two double layered membrane. Outer is porous, inner one is folded. Already discussed, right? This is folded and this is the porous one. Then own DNA and ribosomes it has, that it makes some of the own protein. So mitochondria basically they make their own protein because they have their own DNA and ribosomes. Now coming to plastids, they are very, very important. They are only present in plant cell. They have their own DNA and ribosome. Somewhere it look like mitochondria only, right? So they are of 3 types. Chloroplast, color 1, right? Chloroplast, chromoplast color, chloroplast green, basically photosynthesis and kitchen of cell, and leucoplast is colorless or white. They store starch, all this protein and all. Now coming to vacuoles, store sac for the solid or liquid content, storage sac. So over here, whatever solid is there, whatever liquid in there, they have different sac and they store solid here, they store liquid here. Animal, they are small in size, plant large in size. Vacuoles are full of cell sacs as provide tightly and rigidity to the cell, right? So over here, these are vacuoles, they are basically full of sacs. So if there is a full of sacs, so of course they will provide the rigidity to the cell. And osmoregulation, see, this one is clear.
Yeah, ma'am.
And then store amino acids, sugar, various organelles and protein. Done with all the functions. Now coming to the next one over here is plant cell, animal cell. Cell wall is present, cell wall is absent. Contain chloroplast, does not contain chloroplast. Vacuoles are large, small. Large in size, small in size. Plast is present, plast is absent. Right?
Yeah.
Now, over there, I told you few terms, which is mitosis and meiosis. Right?
Yeah.
So mitosis is basically, this we will be doing later on, but I'm just giving you a hint how cell division takes place. Mitosis is basically from one cell, only two organelles will be, two daughter cell will be produced. Over here, 4 daughter cells are produced. Okay. Daughter cell have same number of chromosome as mother. Daughter cell have half of the number of chromosome that of mother. Clear?
Okay. Yeah.
Now this one is basically very, very important for this chapter. One marker. Father of biology, Aristotle. Nucleus, Robert Brown. Cell theory, Skeldon and Scavel. Protoplasm, Purkinje. Cell, Robert Hooke. Right? And where the cell came, this come from the Latin word which means little room. Clear? And longest cell is neuron and smallest cell is mycoplasm. Okay, just quickly note down the marker. Right?
Yeah, I noted it down.
Yes.
Ma'am, done. Ma'am?
Yes, Rebecca, done?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is basically the entire chapter look like. So you can revise it from your book and let me know if anything is not clear to you. Right. Also, I'll share this PDF with you. Right.
Okay, ma'am. Yeah.
So you can just go through it as well. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
So do you want the handwritten as well? But handwritten, I don't think you will be able to understand my language.
The handwritten is not necessary because it's already been covered by the PDF,
Yes.
ma'am.
So it's everything is written over here. Handwrittens are basically, the last time revision. Right?
Yeah.
Especially for the one marker, not for the long answers.
Yeah, I
Right?
know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So you can just revise it. Still, we have 5 more minutes, right? And let me know if you have any difficulty. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.